What if three astronauts woke up one morning and realized they were effectively trapped in space with no guaranteed way home? That's not science fiction. That happened right now on China's Tiangong space station. And the scariest part? Almost nobody outside the inner circles of Beijing's space program saw it coming. Stay with me for the next 7 minutes and I'll take you inside one of the quietest near-disasters in modern spaceflight history. How a microscopic piece of space junk created a crisis 400 kilometers above your head. How China pulled off a covert rescue plan in record time. And why this incident just exposed the single biggest hole in humanity's entire approach to keeping astronauts alive. By the end you will know things that most space reporters still haven't connected. And you. I'll never look at those beautiful night sky pictures of space stations the same way again. Let's start on a day that began like any other on Tiangong. October 2025. 6 Chinese astronauts are floating inside China's pride and joy, the Tiangong space station. 3 are finishing a 6-month tour aboard Shenzhou-22. The fresh crew of 3 has just arrived on Shenzhou-21 for the standard handover. Everything is textbook. Until Mission Control on Earth notices something strange in the telemetry from the older spacecraft. A tiny, almost invisible crack has appeared in one of the heat shield windows of Shenzhou-20's return capsule. The kind of window that has to survive plasma hotter than the surface of the sun on the way home. Engineers run the numbers, do the simulations, and very quietly reach a terrifying conclusion. That ship can never carry humans through re-entry again. Now here's where the real drama begins. Normally, when a crew leaves, they simply climb back into the spacecraft that brought them and fire the engines for home. That's their lifeboat. But because the arriving crew needs a ride too, the standard procedure is for the old crew to borrow the new ship, Shenzhou-21, and leave the damaged one behind. Which is exactly what happened on November 14th, at 3 a.m. Eastern Time. Shenzhou-21 undocked, lit its engines, and streaked back to Earth with 6 relieved astronauts inside. The landing was perfect. Crowds cheered. State television showed smiling families, and then, silence. Because 400 kilometers up, the 3 astronauts who had just waved goodbye suddenly realized they were now alone on Tiangong. With no lifeboat at all. Imagine that moment. A fire breaks out. A micrometeoroid punches a hole in the hull. Radiation spikes after a solar flare. Any one of those things, all of which have happened before, and the only option is to sit tight, pray the station holds together, and hope Beijing can magically produce a new spacecraft faster than anyone thought possible. That is not a comfortable position when the nearest help is 250,000 miles away and moving at 5 miles a second. China's answer came faster than almost anyone predicted. 3 days later, on November 17th, a cryptic airspace closure notice appeared over the Gobi Desert. The kind of notice that only space nerds and intelligence agencies bother to read. It revealed that the Jiuquan launch center was clearing the skies for a Long March 2F rocket at the exact same pad that had launched Shenzhou-21 less than 3 weeks earlier. Target date, November 24th tonight, as I record this. No press conference, no flashy graphics. Just a quiet CCTV segment confirming that Shenzhou-22, originally scheduled for next year, was being rolled out months early, fully loaded with cargo. And completely empty of people. In other words, China decided to launch a robotic lifeboat. Think about that. They keep an entire rocket and spacecraft on standby, fueled, crewless, and ready to go within days. Not weeks, days. That's something the old NASA shuttle program never managed. And something the current Western commercial providers still can't promise. But even with that standby rocket, it still took 20 days from the moment the crack was discovered until the new ship lifts off. 20 days without a lifeboat. 20 days when any serious station emergency would have been game over. And here's the part that should chill every space agency on Earth. This is the second time in less than 2 years that astronauts have ended up stranded on a space station with no dedicated ride home. Remember Boeing Starliner? June 2024. Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams kissed their families goodbye for what was supposed to be an 8-day test flight. Helium leaks and thruster failures turned it into a 9-month ordeal. Starliner limped home empty. The astronauts finally came back on a SpaceX Dragon, almost a year late. 2 different countries, 2 different spacecraft. Same nightmare scenario. And both times everybody got lucky. Because right now, tonight, there is no global 911 for space. There is no helicopter you can scramble, no Coast Guard cutter, no parachute you can pull. If your ride breaks, you either fix it with duct tape and hope, or you wait months for the next scheduled launch and pray nothing else goes wrong in the meantime. That's not what if. That's the actual state of human spaceflight in 2025. We've grown so used to the pictures. The crisp sunrises over the curve of the Earth, the weightless somersaults, the international handshakes, that we forgot how thin the margin really is. One hairline crack in the wrong piece of glass and 3 lives hang on the turnaround speed of a factory in the Gobi Desert. And it's only going to get worse. Next decade, we're talking dozens of people in orbit at once. Chinese stations, American commercial stations, maybe even private habitats. More traffic, more debris, higher odds that something, somewhere, fails at exactly the wrong moment. So here's the secret almost nobody in power wants to say out loud. We have never, not once in 65 years of sending people to orbit, built a true rapid response space rescue system. We've had lifeboats, sure. Soyuz and Dragon and Shenzhou play that role beautifully when everything works. But a real rescue vehicle? Something you can launch in hours, not months, that doesn't care about weather or orbital planes? We canceled the last serious attempt at that in the 1960s. The math is brutal. If your primary spacecraft is 95% reliable and your rescue craft is also 95% reliable, your crew's actual survival probability is 99.75%. That sounds great, until you realize that adding just 10 more people in orbit, or cutting launch prep time from weeks to days, or depending on multiple rescue flights, sends that number tumbling fast. We accept those odds because the alternative building and maintaining a standing orbital rescue fleet costs billions. Nobody wants to spend on a capability that might never be used, until the day it is. Tonight, a Long March 2F rocket will light up the desert sky and carry an empty Shenzhou toward 3 astronauts waiting in silence. If all goes well, it will dock in a few days, restore their lifeboat, and the incident will fade into footnotes. But the crack in that window was never just a crack in glass. It was a crack in the illusion that we've solved the hardest parts of living in space. And somewhere up there, 3 astronauts are counting down the hours until their new ride arrives, hoping the next invisible speck of debris doesn't find them first.